At 86, Eleanor had always been independent and full of life. Her family visited often and everything seemed fine, until her daughter noticed something concerning during their weekly Sunday dinner. Eleanor had lost weight, her clothes hanging loosely on her once sturdy frame. When asked about it, Eleanor brushed it off. "I'm just not as hungry these days." 6 months later, her family was gathered around her hospital bed, wishing they had recognized the warning signs sooner. The truth is, our bodies often send subtle signals months, sometimes even a year, before serious health decline begins. These quiet warnings can be easy to miss, dismissed as normal aging or minor concerns. But recognizing these signs early can make all the difference in ensuring our loved ones get the care, comfort, and dignity they deserve in their final chapters. In this video, we'll explore 7 critical warning signs that often appear in elderly people before significant health decline. Some may surprise you, others might be changes you've already noticed, but didn't realize were important. By the end, you'll have the knowledge to spot these signals early, potentially adding precious time with those you love, and ensuring their final stage of life is filled with comfort, dignity, and peace. Stay with me until the end, because the final sign is something many family members overlook until it's too late. You'll also learn practical steps to take when you notice these changes, what conversations to have, when to seek medical help, and how to provide meaningful support. Don't miss the final insight. It's one that most people overlook, yet it holds incredible power in predicting what lies ahead. These markers could completely reshape how you see your future and add valuable years to your life. If this has sparked your interest, show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, and sharing this video with those you care about. Together, let's make informed choices for a healthier, longer life. Now let's get started with the warning signs you need to know. Sign 1. Unexplained weight loss. One of the earliest and most telling signs that an elderly person's health may be declining is unexplained weight loss. At first, it might seem subtle. Clothes fitting more loosely, belts needing an extra notch, or face appearing slightly thinner. Many families dismiss this as just part of getting older, but significant unintentional weight loss is rarely benign. Consider Martha, a 78-year-old grandmother who had always maintained a healthy appetite and weight. Her son noticed during monthly visits that she seemed to be getting thinner. When asked about it, Martha simply said she wasn't as hungry anymore. What her family didn't realize was that this wasn't just a change in appetite. Her body was signaling that something more serious was happening. When an elderly person begins losing weight without trying, it often indicates that their body is no longer absorbing nutrients efficiently. Muscle mass decreases more rapidly, and essential systems start slowing down. This isn't just about appearance. It's about the body beginning to conserve resources as vital functions decline. For many seniors, changes in appetite accompany this weight loss. Food might not taste as good as it once did. Meals that were once enjoyed become unappealing. Some might find themselves feeling full after just a few bites. These aren't simply preference changes. They're physiological shifts as the body begins to require less fuel. What can you do if you notice unexplained weight loss in an elderly loved one? First, don't ignore it or dismiss it as just aging. Schedule a medical evaluation to rule out treatable conditions like thyroid problems, dental issues, or medication side effects. Track their eating habits. Are they skipping meals or eating significantly less? Offer smaller, nutrient-dense meals rather than large portions that might seem overwhelming. Consider nutritional supplements if recommended by their doctor. Most importantly, make mealtime social and enjoyable. Sometimes appetite improves when dining with others. Remember, forcing large meals rarely helps. Focus instead on quality nutrition in smaller amounts and hydration. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment 1 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Sign 2. Increasing fatigue and weakness. When Susan visited her 81-year-old father, she noticed he could barely make it from his chair to the kitchen without stopping to rest. "I'm just getting old," he would say with a forced smile. But Susan sensed something deeper was happening. Her once energetic father now spent most days in his recliner, too exhausted to even tend the garden he loved. One of the most significant warning signs in elderly people is a profound, persistent fatigue that doesn't improve with rest. This isn't the normal tiredness after a busy day. It's a deep exhaustion that makes even simple activities feel overwhelming. Getting dressed, preparing a simple meal, or even carrying on a conversation becomes draining. This extreme fatigue typically appears gradually. You might notice an elderly loved one needs more breaks during activities, spends more time sitting, or has stopped doing things they once enjoyed. They might sleep longer, need daytime naps, or struggle to stay awake during visits. What's happening physiologically is crucial to understand. As the body begins to decline, it conserves energy for essential functions. The heart doesn't pump as efficiently, reducing oxygen delivery to muscles and organs. Metabolism slows, providing less energy for daily activities. The body essentially prioritizes survival over activity. For many seniors experiencing this decline, the emotional impact can be devastating. Having prided themselves on independence, they now feel frustrated or embarrassed by their limitations. Many withdraw from activities and social engagements, not because they don't care, but because they simply don't have the energy to participate. What can you do if you notice increasing fatigue in an elderly loved one? First, encourage a medical checkup to rule out treatable causes like anemia, thyroid disorders, or medication issues. Help them prioritize activities to conserve energy for what matters most to them. Consider assistive devices that reduce physical strain. A shower chair, grabbers for reaching items, or a walker for stability. Adjust your expectations and time together. Rather than planning long outings, enjoy shorter, quality visits. Listen more, talk less, and be comfortable with peaceful silence. Remember that your presence itself can be comforting even when conversation lags. Most importantly, understand that pushing them to fight through it or stay active might not be helpful. This fatigue isn't something they can overcome with willpower. It's their body signaling a fundamental change. Focus instead on making their limited energy as meaningful and comfortable as possible. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Sign 3. Cognitive changes and withdrawal. Frank's family became concerned when the retired engineer, always precise and articulate, began forgetting conversations they'd had just days before. He would repeat the same stories, sometimes within the same visit. More worrying was his withdrawal from the weekly chess games he'd enjoyed for decades. "It's too much trouble," he'd say, though chess had once been his passion. Subtle changes in cognition and social engagement often signal health decline in elderly people. These aren't necessarily dementia or Alzheimer's disease. They can appear in seniors who have never been diagnosed with cognitive disorders. You might notice increasing forgetfulness beyond typical age-related memory lapses, confusion with simple tasks they've performed for years, difficulty following conversations or keeping track of thoughts, withdrawal from social activities and hobbies they once enjoyed, periods of confusion followed by clarity, decreased interest in family events or celebrations. These cognitive changes occur for several physiological reasons. As circulation weakens, the brain receives less oxygen and nutrients, affecting memory, processing speed, and emotional regulation. The brain, like any organ, requires optimal blood flow to function properly. Consider Helen, a 79-year-old retired teacher who had always been the family storyteller. Her grandson noticed that during holiday gatherings, she now sat quietly in the corner, observing rather than participating. When engaged in conversation, she seemed to lose track mid-sentence or would respond with vague answers. This wasn't just shyness. Her brain was working differently as her body began its decline. For family members, these changes can be particularly painful. You may feel like you're losing the person before they're physically gone. Conversations become one-sided, shared memories fade, and the emotional connection may seem to diminish. What can you do when you notice cognitive changes and withdrawal? First, approach medical evaluation sensitively. While some cognitive changes signal normal aging or temporary conditions, others may indicate treatable issues like medication interactions, vitamin deficiencies, or depression. Adjust your communication style. Speak clearly but not loudly. Use simple sentences and give them time to process information. Avoid correcting or challenging them, which can cause frustration and embarrassment. Instead, validate their feelings and meet them where they are emotionally. Create a predictable environment with consistent routines to reduce confusion. Minimize background noise during conversations and limit the number of people present in social situations, as crowds can become overwhelming. Most importantly, don't mistake withdrawal for disinterest. Continue including them in conversations and activities, but without pressure to participate. Simply being present in a familiar, loving environment provides comfort, even when they can't express it. Remember that even when cognitive function declines, emotional awareness often remains. Your loved one may still recognize the feeling of being valued and included, even if they can't communicate as they once did. Sign 4. Frequent infections and slow healing. Margaret had always been healthy, rarely catching even a common cold. But in the past year, her daughter noticed she'd had 3 urinary tract infections, a bout of pneumonia, and a small cut on her hand that took weeks to heal. Each illness seemed to leave her weaker than before. When an elderly person begins experiencing frequent infections or slow-healing wounds, it often signals that their immune system is weakening, a common precursor to significant health decline. The body's defense mechanisms, which once quickly fought off pathogens and repaired damage, become less efficient as overall health deteriorates. You might notice recurring infections like pneumonia, urinary tract infections, or skin infections, minor illnesses lasting longer than they used to, cuts, bruises, or sores healing very slowly, pressure sores developing from sitting or lying in one position, infections presenting with atypical symptoms, confusion rather than fever, declining effectiveness of medications that once worked well. This happens because as circulation diminishes and organ function declines, the immune system can't mobilize effectively. White blood cells don't reach infection sites as quickly, and the inflammatory response that signals healing becomes less efficient. Consider Robert, an 83-year-old who had always been the Iron Man of his family. In the past 6 months, he'd been hospitalized twice for pneumonia and was constantly battling minor infections. His recovery time grew longer with each illness, and antibiotics that once cleared infections quickly now seemed less effective. What makes this sign particularly challenging is that infections in elderly people often present differently than expected. Instead of fever and obvious symptoms, you might notice increased confusion, fatigue, or loss of appetite. By the time traditional symptoms appear, the infection may be quite advanced. What can you do when you notice frequent infections or slow healing? First, ensure they're receiving regular medical care with a healthcare provider familiar with geriatric medicine. Don't dismiss minor infections as unimportant. Report them promptly to their doctor. Focus on prevention. Ensure good hygiene, proper hydration, and regular position changes for those with limited mobility. Inspect their skin regularly for signs of breakdown, particularly in areas prone to pressure sores. For those with recurrent urinary infections, simple measures like increased fluid intake and regular bathroom trips can help. For respiratory infections, good oral hygiene, proper positioning while eating, and avoiding crowds during illness outbreaks are important preventive steps. Balance treatment decisions carefully. While treating infections is important, at some point, comfort may become the priority over aggressive interventions. This transition happens gradually and requires thoughtful conversations with healthcare providers. Remember that each infection takes a toll, potentially accelerating the overall decline. Your goal is to prevent what you can while ensuring comfort and dignity through each illness. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Sign 5. Changes in breathing and circulation. James noticed something different about his 92-year-old mother during their Sunday visits. Her breathing seemed shallower, with occasional pauses that made his heart skip a beat. Her hands felt cool to the touch even in the warm room, and her fingertips had a bluish tint he hadn't seen before. Changes in breathing patterns and circulation often indicate that the body's vital systems are beginning to slow down. These changes may start subtly but become more pronounced over time. Altered breathing patterns, slower, shallower, or irregular. Periods of rapid breathing followed by pauses, Cheney-Stokes respiration. Increasing shortness of breath with minimal exertion. Cold extremities, particularly hands and feet. Bluish or mottled skin, especially on the limbs, swelling in the ankles, feet, or hands. Needing more pillows to breathe comfortably when lying down. These signs reflect fundamental changes in cardiovascular and respiratory function. The heart muscle weakens, pumping less effectively. Blood flow prioritizes vital organs, reducing circulation to extremities. The respiratory system becomes less efficient at oxygen exchange, leading to breathing changes. Consider Clara, an 85-year-old who once easily walked around her neighborhood. Her granddaughter noticed she now needed to catch her breath after walking from the bedroom to the kitchen. At night, Clara had started sleeping in her recliner because it's just more comfortable, though the real reason was likely that lying flat made it harder to breathe. For many family members, these changes are frightening to witness. The irregular breathing patterns in particular can cause anxiety, as you may find yourself watching to make sure they take the next breath. What can you do when you notice changes in breathing and circulation? First, consult with healthcare providers to understand what's happening and what interventions might help. For some, supplemental oxygen or medications can improve comfort. Position changes often help with breathing difficulties. Elevating the head and chest with pillows or using a recliner can make breathing easier than lying flat. Keep the room cool and well ventilated, as this often helps with breathing comfort. For poor circulation, gentle movement helps when possible. Elevating swollen extremities, avoiding restrictive clothing, and keeping the body warm, especially hands and feet, can improve comfort. Gentle massage of hands and feet not only improves circulation but provides comforting touch. Most importantly, create a calm environment. Anxiety worsens breathing difficulties, so peaceful surroundings, gentle reassurance, and a quiet presence can be as helpful as medical interventions. Remember that these changes represent the body's natural process of slowing down. While you can't reverse this process, you can ensure your loved one feels secure, comfortable, and at peace through these transitions. Sign 6. Sleep pattern disruptions. David had always been an early riser, up at 6 a.m. every day of his 84 years. Lately, his wife noticed he was sleeping until mid-morning, then dozing frequently throughout the day. At night, he'd wander the house at 2 a.m. confused about the time. These sleep disturbances weren't just annoying, they were signaling important changes in his health. Significant changes in sleep patterns often precede health decline in elderly people. These aren't the minor sleep issues many experience with age, but rather marked shifts in when and how they sleep. Excessive daytime sleepiness despite adequate nighttime sleep. Difficulty staying asleep through the night. Reversed sleep cycles. Sleeping during the day, awake at night. Increased total sleep time, sometimes 12+ hours daily. Difficulty waking fully, remaining groggy for extended periods. Sleep that no longer seems refreshing or restorative. These disruptions occur for several physiological reasons. The brain's sleep-wake cycle regulation weakens. Hormones that control sleep, particularly melatonin, fluctuate abnormally. The body's internal clock, which has kept reliable time for decades, begins to falter. Consider Ruth, a 79-year-old who had always enjoyed active mornings in her garden. Her son noticed during a week-long visit that she now slept until noon, seemed disoriented upon waking, then nodded off repeatedly during afternoon conversations. At night, she would sit in her chair, drowsy but unable to fall into deep sleep. For family members, these changes can be exhausting and concerning. Nighttime wandering creates safety risks. Daytime sleepiness reduces quality interaction time. The person you've known all your life suddenly seems to exist on a different schedule, in a different rhythm from the rest of the world. What can you do when you notice significant sleep changes? First, rule out treatable causes. Medication side effects, sleep apnea, depression, and pain can all disrupt sleep and may respond to treatment. Consult with healthcare providers before assuming these changes are simply part of decline. Establish environmental cues that help regulate sleep-wake cycles. Bright light exposure in the morning, darkness at night, and consistent meal times can help reinforce normal patterns. Limit daytime napping to short periods to preserve nighttime sleep. Create a safe environment for nighttime wakening. Night lights clear pathways, and removing trip hazards become essential if your loved one wanders at night. Consider motion sensors or door alarms for those prone to wandering outside. Adjust your expectations and schedule when possible. If your loved one is most alert in the evening, plan important conversations or activities then. Accept that some days will have very limited alert time and make the most of those windows. Remember that disrupted sleep often affects cognition, worsening confusion and irritability. Approach these moments with patience, understanding that these reactions stem from physiological changes, not personal choice. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward to our final warning sign. Sign 7. Loss of interest in the future. Perhaps the most subtle yet profound sign of health decline is when an elderly person stops making plans for the future. This isn't depression as we typically understand it, but rather an intuitive awareness that their time is growing limited. Thomas, at 88, had always been an avid gardener, planning each season's plantings months in advance. His daughter became concerned when he declined to order bulbs for next spring's garden. "Maybe I'll just enjoy what's already planted," he said quietly. When she suggested renovating his bathroom, he replied, "I don't think I need to worry about that anymore." You might notice declining interest in long-term plans or projects, giving away personal belongings with increasing urgency, making statements about not being here for future events, loss of interest in preventive health measures or long-term treatments, a shift from future-oriented conversation to reminiscing about the past, sudden peace or acceptance after periods of anxiety or resistance. Many healthcare providers and hospice workers recognize this as an intuitive understanding that many elderly people develop as their body begins its final decline. It's as if they sense what medical tests haven't yet revealed, that their journey is nearing its completion. Consider Eleanor, who at 91 had always insisted on having her hair styled weekly. When she suddenly showed no interest in making her standing appointment, her granddaughter was puzzled. "It doesn't matter much now," Eleanor said. 3 months later, she suffered a major stroke. Looking back, her family realized she had sensed the change coming before they saw any obvious signs. This shift in perspective isn't necessarily negative or depressing. Many elderly people describe it as peaceful, a natural releasing of future concerns and a focusing on what matters in the present moment. What can you do when you notice this change in perspective? First, listen without dismissing their feelings. Avoid responses like, "Don't talk that way," or "You'll be fine," when they express awareness of limited time. These well-intentioned reassurances can shut down important conversations. Create space for meaningful reflection. Ask about their life stories, wisdom they'd like to share, or values they hope will continue through future generations. These conversations often bring profound connection and peace. Help them complete unfinished business if they express such desires. Reaching out to estranged family members, documenting family history, or expressing important final thoughts. These actions can provide significant emotional closure. Consider practical preparations they might want to make. Many elderly people find peace in knowing their affairs are in order, their wishes are documented, and their loved ones won't face unnecessary burdens with decisions. Most importantly, shift your focus from quantity to quality of time. Rather than pushing for treatments that might extend life briefly, concentrate on making each day meaningful, comfortable, and filled with what they value most. We've explored 7 significant warning signs that often appear before serious health decline in elderly people: unexplained weight loss, increasing fatigue, cognitive changes, frequent infections, breathing and circulation changes, sleep disruptions, and loss of interest in the future. Recognizing these signs isn't about predicting the exact timeline of someone's life or living in fear of losing them. It's about being present with awareness, responding to their changing needs, and making conscious choices about the time you have together. When you notice these signs, consider 3 important steps. First, seek appropriate medical evaluation, but with balanced expectations. Some conditions can be treated, improving comfort and function. Others represent the natural progression of aging that medicine cannot reverse. Understanding the difference helps you make compassionate choices. Second, shift your focus from fixing to supporting. Rather than trying to return your loved one to their previous state, adapt to their new normal with practical and emotional support that meets them where they are. Finally, prioritize meaningful connection in whatever time remains. The most profound gift you can offer is your presence. Not just physically being there, but truly seeing them, honoring their journey, and creating moments of genuine connection despite physical decline. Remember that recognizing these warning signs gives you a precious opportunity, the chance to say what needs saying, to create final memories, and to ensure that your loved one's last chapter is written with dignity, comfort, and love. In the end, it's not about fighting against the inevitable transition, but about making the journey as gentle and meaningful as possible. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below sharing one thing you learned and how you plan to use this knowledge. Your thoughts are important to us, and reading your comments gives us great motivation to continue creating content that informs and inspires. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share with others who might benefit. Your support helps us continue creating content that makes a difference in people's lives. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.